When people ask me where I am from, the first thing I would kind of think of is my family and where are they from, and then the response, my ideal response is Pakistan. My family are from Pakistan, but I'm born in the UK.
I find that question really difficult. Where are you from? Where are you really from? Because I tend to say, well, I was born in Doncaster, and I moved to Manchester when I was 3. So I class myself as a Mancunian. I'm from Manchester. But no, but where are you from? And then I sort of look at them and say, do you mean where are my parents from?
It's not a straight answer that I can give straight away. I would obviously pause, I would think about it, because I could be classed as Hindu, Kenyan or British. So I would look at those 3 answers, and I would obviously, the first answer I would always give is British.
There's so much involved in that in regards to your identity, your heritage, your culture, and I think you're in a situation that you've got the best of both worlds.
I don't tend to go off titles and names as such, this is British, this is Hindu. I believe everyone is the same as one, basically, so I don't focus too much on that, but I'm a proud British citizen, and and I'm also a proud Hindu as well at the same time.
I'd say that's the main kind of thing. Being a British, British Asian myself, is I abide by the British rules and the British values, but then kind of follow my own religion and my own culture, and don't shy away from that really. Growing up in a Pakistani household, that my parents mainly have their culture back in their country, and then they kind of want you to follow that culture and that kind of tradition that they've set in their country. And when you come over to the UK, it's completely different. Things are completely different here, and the rules and the people that you mix with kind of mold you into a different person compared to what they originally want you to be. And I found that quite challenging in the beginning to kind of express my religion.
I've studied in the schools here, so I have that very good element of a British upbringing, but then also you have that your home upbringing as well at the same time, which brings in a lot of culture. Together, I think it's a great mix.
Being from a handful of Pakistani people living in my area, and being at the time younger, it was quite hard to grow up in that community where everybody else was, kind of in one kind of group. And I was seen as like the black sheep. I was kind of on my own for a while.
I think it was limited. Obviously your family and your relatives were of South Asian heritage, but you didn't get to meet them much. So anything in regards to like films or watching Bollywood or Lollywood movies was maybe on a weekend, and when Mum and Dad were probably free from working, and we'd put a film on and watch it together. But trying to understand the language fully was hard, because you were learning English and then you were learning 2-3 Asian languages, so it was Urdu, it was Punjabi.
I think as a child I was brought up by my grandparents. I could speak fluent Gujarati, probably better than I could speak English, I think, at the time, as a child growing up as a toddler. But then I went into education, and then it completely stopped. My parents then decided to then start, bringing obviously a bit more Hinduism culture to myself. Obviously with the events that go on in Manchester, with the social events, even the sporting events, and then I started to then become more introduced back into the culture a bit. So there was a good 10 years, I would say, I was away from it.
A lot of the food we used to have was traditional Asian food. So Mum used to do all the cooking in the morning, our breakfast. It was always that breakfast was the main meal of the day. So as young people, my mum used to make parathe and eggs, and that was a filling meal. So it wasn't just your cereal, it wasn't cornflakes or Weetabix, it was more so a paratha. So it wasn't toast, it was actually the traditional Asian food that we used to have before we went to school. At school one day we were cooking shepherd's pie, and I took some coriander, and no one had heard of putting some coriander and some chilies and garam masala in a shepherd's pie.
To me, it's made me become a cook as well, because I've taken an interest in how we cook and also what British cuisines are. You get to mix them up together, you get to do different things.
So I'd say prayers, quite a significant part of my life. 5 times a day we pray. And when I was younger, I kind of I couldn't really do that. You know, in schools and stuff, there wasn't any facilities that you could, you know, go to the teacher and go, you know, it's this time, I need to go and pray and stuff. And as I got older and went to college and stuff, I kind of, you know, expressed that this is my religion and I kind of need to do these things. So even when I started working, I was working quite young. And I had to express to the people that I worked for that on Fridays at this certain time I've got to go out and I've got to go to the mosque and pray. And it was quite a hard concept for them to grasp at first. So, you know, why can't you just pray here, or, you know, why can't you just skip it?
You know, when it's Diwali now, everything will go, let alone with any other religion. I think councils now do take it quite seriously and do as much as they can for all religions, and I think it's great.
Going to an Asian wedding can last forever. It can last for days and days. It depends on the bride and groom. You know, you want extra days, you want a henna night, you want a girls' night, you want so many different things. So yeah, I think the weddings were the best, wearing beautiful coloured clothing, wearing these flowing lengas and saris and the jewellery that went. The Asian jewellery was absolutely amazing, the bangles and the hair jewellery.
I'd go to school meals and stuff and they wouldn't have any halal options and stuff, so I'd have to have like a specific packed lunch that I'd had to take with me to school, and people would kind of, you know, see that in an odd way and ask, why aren't you eating at school like everybody else is, why have you got a packed lunch? And I'd have to say that the school doesn't offer any halal options for me to eat. It's either vegetarian, which at the time was quite a new concept as well. There wasn't a lot of vegetarian options. And so, you know, sometimes my mum would pack something that she'd made the day before into my packed lunch, and I was quite embarrassed to take that into school. Fitting in was quite a huge thing for me. I had to change a lot about myself in the way I dress, you know, in the way I talk, and in the kind of activities that I do outside of school and things. It was quite hard. Most of my friends being from Eastern European and white descent, and the things that they'd kind of do, you know, stay out late and that kind of thing, whereas my parents, you know, they were quite new to the country and they didn't understand the rules and things that children in this country did compared to when they were growing up.
Racism is out there, discrimination was out there. If you wore Asian clothing, people would look at you in a certain way. And I know the world is a lot smaller now, and we pick up a lot of different traditions from many different cultures and countries. But at that time, it was hard. When you used to wear Asian dress, people look at you, oh, what have you got on? What's that? You know, wearing trousers under a dress looked bizarre. And nowadays, people wear, you know, trousers under dresses, wear what they want. No one says anything, but when I was growing up, it was hard.
I remember, you know, my parents got attacked for, you know, being who they were, and they were walking on the street and people would kind of either throw things at them, dump things on them, and just blatantly call them racist names and stuff. And it was quite hurtful to see that, being quite young at the time when all of this kind of stuff happened, and not being able to do anything at that point. I couldn't really say anything. I couldn't do anything because my parents were new to the country, and we didn't know anyone. We don't have any other family here. We can't really go to anyone and ask them for help because there's literally no one here. And we'd call the police and they'd go, yeah, we're doing something about it. We're going to try our hardest, but you know, you don't have any proof who did it. You don't have, even though we kind of gave names on who had done these kind of things, and it's been occurring like frequently, and we'd report it and nothing would get done at that point, until it got quite severe when people would, you know, stand outside our house with like knives and stuff to kind of threaten us to, you know, and scare us. And I remember that when I was quite young, because we'd go to mosque every day around 4 p.m. So me, my father and my brother, we'd leave the house, so it'd only be my sisters and my mother who was in the house, and they couldn't do much. So people would come to the house and, you know, kind of bang on the windows, go into our back garden and smash the windows and stuff. And it hurt because, you know, getting that phone call that something had happened every other day and nothing had been done about it, it kind of took a toll on me, and I kind of felt like, you know, what am I supposed to do in this country? You know, my parents came here to give us a better future.
There are stresses in life, and there are issues that you do have. I suppose, you know, putting yourself out there in regards to opportunities, that insecurity with yourself, you know, as an Asian woman, do I fit in? Can I go for this career or can I do that? I mean, my journey, I've gone into a political arena. Is it a place for me as an Asian woman? You question yourself.
I needed a community of my own people to kind of sit down and kind of express how we're feeling and talk to people and kind of get all of us onto the right path, and you know, for us to help each other out.
I wish I'd seen people that were in politics, that were at a higher level, that I could identify with and think, well, actually, I could do that. I could become a politician. I could become the Lord Mayor of Manchester. You know, I didn't see that. I didn't see people like me in them type of careers. My two young girls, when I was making sure they kept the language skills. So in the house, it was like Urdu, Punjabi. I thought, you're going to learn English at school. You're going to learn English with all your friends. So I needed to maintain that language skill and the culture. So, and in the home, I'd make sure they watched some films, some Asian films, so they'd maintain that language. And if they spoke in Urdu or Punjabi, they then could speak in English the same sentence. And if we go back to Pakistan or wherever, they need to be able to know that language. And it's powerful to have another 2-3 languages. Amazing.
Cultures, languages, yes, I will encourage that for my children, because not only is it a good advantage point to have, that you can speak another language, you can understand another language, you know a bit more about other religions. I think it's all part of an advantage point. You know, I believe that everyone is the same, everyone should be treated the same.
How much I've kind of came to terms with who I am, and quite frankly how happy I am with who I am.
Celebrate the fact that we belong to one race, the human race, in all its beauty and diversity.
I mean, if a young generation starts mixing with other young people, let's say we start mixing up with English people start mixing with Indian people and all this, but we are the generation which will, you know, make an advantage and an improvement on this world.